It is HPR, All Things Considered. I'm Dave Lawrence. Today, a fantastic storyteller, keyboard legend. And like I was saying to him before we started this, so many folks wish they could have sat that close to Jerry Garcia like he did while working, no less, which is the crazy part of that. And for so long, there's so many things. And one of them is the way this guy would make Jerry Garcia smile with his keyboard work. And I can tell you, and you can make some, I'm sure, grin and laugh. And I watched it so many times. And all these years later, perhaps not having that available to you, it's great to remember Jerry getting that huge grin. It was priceless. And it was Melvin Seals, ladies and gentlemen, who Jerry was smiling at. And it was stuff he was doing on the Hammond B3 with the Jerry Garcia band. And he is going to be offering a sample of that as he comes with that band. That he has a version of that he's working at the Blue Note Hawaii tonight. Then Friday and Saturday on the Garden Isle at the Porter Pavilion. Tuesday and Wednesday, the 16th and 17th, it says on his site, lovely Paia Town on the Valley Isle, Melvin Seals and JGB.com. You can learn more. And a pleasure to welcome back this magical cat. Melvin, what are you doing? A heartfelt mahalo for being with me. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to coming over there.
It's awesome to have you.
It's been a while, and it's long overdue.
Yeah, that's the way to think of it, even though you're just over there in the Bay Area. Now, tell everyone first to set a picture, because it's All Things Considered. So many different folks tune in the afternoon who may not know all the details of who you are or anything. So who is in the band you're bringing to Hawaii first?
Well, I have John Candlestick on guitar. He's one of the founding members of Dark Star Orchestra. You may remember him.
Yep.
And I think he went off and went further. So you should remember John. And I have J.P. McLean is my bass player and vocalist. And I have Jeremy Harnick on drums. And then myself on keyboards. That's the band. And, of course, we're bringing some crew and some men to kind of make this stuff sound good. Mondo is our sound guy is coming, and Paul.
Mondo and Paul. Can't do it without Mondo and Paul, the crew.
Can't do it without them. I need them.
And that's a great lead into the question that so many people who understand a little of the Hammond B3 and Leslie speaker setup, that's this big, brown, warm-sounding keyboard rig you may remember from throughout your life. So many artists have played, and then these speakers with the rotating little gizmo in them. And so that's one of Melvin's sort of like trademark bits. That's kind of the things he'd be doing that make Jerry have that big funny grin on his face like he was just having the best time of his life. So do you bring your own Hammond B3 Leslie speakers, or you rent them here? How does that work?
Well, this particular time they went to great leaps and bounds to find me. You would think for the amount of people that come over there, it would just be available all over the place. But B3s are not just sitting over there, And so we made some arrangement to get me a nice organ over there so I can do my thing, Because so many times people get a little keyboard or they get something that's supposed to sound like a B3, and it's nothing like it. Nothing like that.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. So that means it's being shipped in for this?
That's a really good question where it's coming from. I know my sound people been orchestrating that with the powers to be over there, where it's coming from. I think there's a few over there somewhere.
Right.
Someone owns them. I'm not quite for sure, but I do know they're supposed to have a B3 for me.
You going to have more than one Leslie speaker or just one?
Well, no, that's just wishful thinking. To get a B3 and one Leslie is asking for a lot. If I got two, my God, what this world coming to? I'm not for sure.
In 2015, they have them. I don't know if they're still working, but in 2015, we had Booker T in the studio with a Hammond that they rented and two Leslies. And man, I remember the sound check when they fired those things up for the very first time. The sound before any playing was done just the sound in that
The
room.
sound of it firing up. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Those Leslies, man, they make there's a noise that just kind of electric hum that is so...
Yes, they're pretty powerful now.
Yeah, you almost think they're not going to work because you're like, they sound like they're on the end of life. And that's a fun question for somebody like you that also comes up, because a lot of the time when you talk to cats and you read books, like for example, reading about Led Zeppelin in the early 70s trying to take a Mellotron around and all the kinds of trouble a Mellotron could get itself into because it was a very sensitive, funky issue.
Right.
Do you ever show up and have a B3 issue where, like, even if it's your own rig or whatever and you're right about to play, because they're such sensitive critters, do you ever have a moment that you can flash back on when you're like, man, there was this one time and the thing just went out and we couldn't figure it, and we couldn't...
Oh, yeah, all the time. I mean, first off, to have two Leslies not talking to each other is very common. Very, very common. You know, like, you know, I hate to say the name SIR, but they're a big company that rent gear. And a lot of times their guys they bring it, they set it up where you want it, and they plug it in and they turn it on. When the light turns on and they hit a note, they think it's working. That's just the first stages of it working. So then they leave. They leave and they pick it up tomorrow. Well, it's not working. One of the Leslies go in the opposite direction. They're supposed to go the same direction at the same time. You give it a command, turn on, it turns on. You give it a command, turn off. Well, you know, there's so much more to model numbers of Leslie, 122, 147, 138.
Wow.
And so they'll bring out two Leslie, get them fired on, and they're working totally independent. The worst thing you want. You don't want that. And then you can't get them back because they've gone from great leaps of bounds to go back to wherever they came from, you know. They're not working. So many times I'm working with one when it's supposed to be two.
Wow. Okay.
You know,
and then no, you go ahead.
Or you know, they set it up and they get everything turned on, and then you have the union guys move organ into place where they want it to be. And you're not supposed to drag the organ plugged in with the cables plugged in. So they drag that and just one pin pop off. Bam, no organ for the night. And way above their knowledge. It was just working a minute ago. Way above their knowledge that you pop the pin. It won't work.
And it's a critical part of your show, which is the...
I mean, they want to see me on the organ.
That's it. That's it right there. You can't really replace that. And you need these... It's a real show. Even though the sound of it is so much really what's driving it, people do expect... It's just something about the quality. Just as an aside, which is a totally different instrument, but I remember in December of 2007, I got to see the Led Zeppelin reunion at the O2 in London. And,
oh, wow. Yeah.
And this is a one-time thing, and you would think they would have pulled out all the... I mean, they had a great lighting rig, and a lot of... I'm sure the other musicians had ample gear, but I'll never forget, John Paul Jones had like one keyboard. And he was using like patches, samples, whatever from like one. And so when it came to no quarter, there was no Mellotron up on stage to do that famous intro that they had. And that sound that you're just so, or the Fender Rhodes, I guess is what I'm thinking of. Whatever I think that's what I'm thinking. It's like a Fender Rhodes sound on that. And so it just felt strange watching it. And I'm not technically savvy enough to say if that was the right or wrong thing to do, but when you were just talking about people expect to see you on the organ, I kind of that night felt, because I'm just bearing my soul to a real keyboard guy. Just maybe I couldn't figure out why he wouldn't have been surrounded by like one of everything that he might need.
Right. Well, sometimes when you're in a foreign country or you know, you go over to Jamaica. That's another place where we have a problem. We've been going to Jamaica about the last 7 years, and we just started getting B3s over there.
Oh.
It's been everything but B3.
Wow.
And Jamaica, you know, come on.
Yeah, with Jimmy Cliff and stuff, you'd think that would be...
Right.
way back in
Right. Right. You think it's just all over the place, and it's hard to get.
That's
And
interesting.
so, yeah, it's just, you go to this place, and then if you made an arrangement, they only have one, and one of those things happens that I just mentioned earlier. You move it, and a pin pop on the cable, and it's way above their knowledge. Now, my guy Armando has gotten pretty good because he's faced those problems.
Right.
And he's learned to troubleshoot. Matter of fact, he probably could go out now as an organ tech guy, fixing organs, because he's faced those problems and learned to fix them.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're great when you guys are really playing those, because we've had Don Airy from Deep Purple on talking about just moving them, how heavy that they are to get these things from place to place. And he's a guy who demands, like yourself, he wants to use the real. He doesn't. I mean, and maybe for John Paul Jones, those samples or whatever work, And I'm not saying it sounded bad. It didn't. I just was like, to my eye, I was like, wow, it would have been cool to see like the real Fender Rhodes and like a Mellotron up there for purposes. But when I dialing back to your own personal development with the stuff, I don't know. I've talked to you many times, but I don't know if I've gotten the story. But it'd be a good one for listeners to kind of bring it back to music things that more people might understand. Unlike the Grateful Dead, Jerry, when he played solo, he was doing like couple of sets of stuff that had a lot of R&B flavor. It had a very different sound, a lot of Motown and things. Yeah. There was some reggae in there too, Harder They Come, and it was a different kind of sound than the Grateful Dead. Walk us all the way back to because Jerry had been going for a while before you got into his circle, and try to, in story form, as much as anything might be fun for folks listening, especially people who don't really know these bands, but how Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead ends up getting you on board, because for context, you then ride this thing to the end, essentially.
I guess I did.
You did. I mean, you were the guy that so many people like myself who camped and vended and went out and were really, you just can't replace the smile you brought that guy. How could you not? Yeah, wow. It just lit up anyone's night. And I think we all took it for granted because it was just part of a 2-hour show. But I like to pass it along to you so that you remember it as you light that story up for us.
Well, how I got with Jerry was, if that's the question you were asking me, was pretty interesting and gratifying. Jerry had seen me and saw me with Elvin Bishop. There was a big concert in San Diego, and I was with the Elvin Bishop band at the time, and my friend Merle Saunders was with Jerry. I didn't know who Jerry was. I just wasn't a deadhead. I didn't know much about. I knew the name Grateful Dead because there's a huge band in San Francisco. And when they play the Fillmore, not the Warfield, the Oakland Auditorium, around New Year they do those series of shows. So you knew the name because Channel 7 would talk about it. The Grateful Dead and the people that lived around there, how they didn't like the fans camping out. You heard all that stuff. I never put it together, but you just knew it. So I knew the name Grateful Dead and probably heard Jerry Garcia, but again, not being a fan of the music at that time, you just hear this and it doesn't mean anything. It's like Janis Joplin. I know who she was, but I didn't know her songs, you know. Jefferson Starship. I knew the name. You didn't know their song. So Grateful Dead fell in that category. And so we did this concert in San Diego, and I was with the Elvin Bishop Band. And Jerry asked, because they told me, and that was so gratifying to one day hear this. He asked who was on the keyboard. Never saw him. He never came out, never saw him. The Elvin Bishop Band did our set. We left. I never saw Jerry. I never even saw Merle, who was my friend. And so one day when I got one, and when he says, yes, I know who you are. What? I heard you. He told me when and where at that show in San Diego sometime. I don't know what it was called. He knew, and he told me. I asked who that guy was. You're that guy. it's like, I can't tell you how I felt, but my God, at that time, to know that someone was paying attention to you then that you never thought you would ever meet, knew anything about, he was paying attention. But to make a long story shorter, I was doing some work with Maria Modawa, and John Kahn was her boyfriend. John Kahn was a bass player in the Jerry Garcia band for years, of course.
Yep.
And so whenever Maria, bass player, couldn't do a gig, she just got John come sit in. And John come sit in 3 or 4 or 5 times and, was just paying attention to me and looking, just to what I was doing. And he kind of gradually one day offered the opportunity of, would I be interested in sitting in another band? He didn't go in any leaps abound or who it was, what it was for. He just said, hey, man, somebody play with another band. We get together, we do some gigs, and then you think you'd be interested. And, of course, as a musician, you just all doors you leave open. Oh, man, I'd love to do it,
Yeah, sure.
And so I get a phone call one day from John Kahn saying, hey, man, this band I was telling you about, we're going to see if we have a rehearsal and see if we can put some things together for a show. This, of course, was the Jerry Garcia band, which I knew nothing about.
Wow.
And nothing about the fans, the ordeal, even the rehearsal where it was in the Grateful Dead rehearsal hall, their warehouse on Front Street in San Rafael. I knew that. I mean, that's legendary places now, but where I was going was like, okay, give me the address. I don't know. And so I go up there, and as, a musician that tries to be timely and look good about things, I get there early before all the guys get there. And there are people, warehouse guys that kind of stay there and keep watch over the place, let me in, and they expected me. So I get in before all of them. I walk in and waiting for them to show up. And I'm sure you've probably heard the story, but the story is real. I walk in and I see all these backdrops, these Grateful Dead backdrops, and all of them had to deal with skeletons. Just about all of them. And so, and I'm like a fresh young person out of the church. I played in church all my life. Work with choirs and groups and pastors and stuff. And so
gospel background.
Right. And so you walk in and you look at this, and remember, I don't know anything about these people. And you can just imagine, it's like, what the? And I don't want to say the rest. And then the other thing to throw fire on the, fume on the fire, it wasn't too long before Jim Jones had that massacre.
So you're giving a great date to it. So this was about 78, you're saying, when you first arrive in?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't too long when he took them over that ridges over the Guyana and all that stuff happening. So, and it was a cult.
Yeah.
So I quickly learned Grateful Dead had a cult following.
Yeah.
Well, just all it took was the word cult. There's different types of things.
Right.
I put it in the wrong category. I'm looking at these skeletons. I know nothing about these people. And it got pretty weird for a moment for me in my head, like, what is going on, So anyhow, I'm there, and then they all showed up at the same time. I got there early, and then they all kind of came in, Jerry, John, Dave. It wasn't Dave Kemper. I forget the drummer. It was a different drummer at that time. 2 girls, and Steve Pierce. They all kind of came in. So how when everybody introduced themselves, it goes in short-term memory. Hi, I'm John. Hey, I'm Jerry. I'm Harold. You hear it and say hi, but it's gone as quick as they said. I don't remember,
Right.
But it's easy for them to remember your one name than against about 8 people that just walked in the door and you're trying to remember who they are.
Sure, it's confusing is what you're saying.
Yes. And so, Jerry was in there, but again, no one is saying, hey, this is Jerry Garcia, he's a leader. No, it's just hey, I'm Jerry, I play guitar, and then, hey, blah, 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 and hey, how you doing, Melvin? So, we all got in there, and then Jerry, who I obviously learned who he was quickly, just go try a couple of songs. I'm saying, so we went over a couple of Motown songs because I figured everybody would know Motown, How Sweet It Is, Second That Emotion, something that everybody would know.
Sure.
The Harder to Come, we went over about 3 or 4 songs, and then we took a break. And in that break, it was very interesting because everybody disappeared in rooms. There were a lot of rooms in that place. I went to the lobby, and everybody was gone for a minute. But anyhow, they did show back up in the lobby.
Good stuff. Oh, boy.
You can imagine, take it from there. You can imagine what went on. I don't know.
No, you do it well for radio. Thank you. I appreciate it. My boss will appreciate it. And you can continue though. This is a good one.
Okay. And then we all be back in the lobby, and the guitar player, again, me not knowing it, the guitar player says, "Man, you play some pretty good keyboard." And I said, "Well, Randy, you play some pretty good guitar." And everybody's laughing because I don't have a clue who he is, besides he told me his name. And so they just giggling. They loved it because I was like innocent as it come. I, didn't know who he was. It was just a band for a weekend, a gig for the weekend we were getting ready to do. It's all I knew,
Right. Sure.
And so it worked out, and he loved it, and we had another rehearsal. We did, I think it was Keystones in Berkeley. Not Berkeley, Keystone in San Francisco for the first set of gigs. And we did those, and fans showed up, and it went nuts, and it just went on from there. I quickly learned what I was involved with from that point on,
What an introduction to, and was that when that story you told us when he basically acknowledged to you to tell you the exact show in San Diego where he had first seen you? Did that conversation happen there in the San Rafael rehearsal space?
Yes, that rehearsal. He said he knew where he had heard me play before, and I'm like, because my first few gigs kind of out of the church, because I was producing gospel music, church choir. My work was all church.
Yeah.
I did some Broadway plays here in San Francisco, and from the Broadway play came Elvin Bishop. He came to the play and heard me play and wanted me to do an album with him, so it wasn't. I didn't play with too many people outside of the gospel music,
right.
And so I was still even playing in church when I was doing the Broadway plays and Sundays. I'm still over the choirs and this and that. So I didn't have a big, resume of playing with all these people and all over the place. It's very small. And for this guy to say, "I've heard you play in San Diego," I'm like,
it would mean a lot. I get it. It's a huge, and it stuck in his mind, and he realized, I like this guy's sound. I could maybe gel with him and groove, which, of course, if people take any time and look it up, that is, as I described, it would just go on like that through that critical point forever. And there would be a couple of other little collaborations. The thing with Merle and the Rainforest bit in right around when Jerry had his big health breakdown. But aside from that, you would have that gig from the late 70s all the way through to his passing in 1995. Correct?
That is correct. I was fortunate to play for Jerry's last wedding. I played the organ here when they marched in. I was fortunate enough, or unfortunate, I'd say fortunate, whatever you say, to play at his funeral. I'm one of the few musicians that played at his funeral. Jack and Glory song, and we did this rendition of a song.
Unbelievable. So, these historic parts of his life, and a part of them that I don't know if I asked you before, but it's good for our chat today because I sort of described the era. So that era of the Grateful Dead, and I'm not an expert on when this stuff happened, but so you'd be working with Jerry while simultaneously the Dead were doing something that some people don't quite know about. I like to just give it visibility and see if but because it's historic as heck. It's one of the most historic things that ever happened in rock, but at the same time, I'm always curious about people's awareness of it. So the Dead and the promoters who booked them had some sort of arrangement where fans were able to, let's say the Dead was playing a tour of arenas and they were doing 2-3 nights at most of these venues. The promoter would have a portion of the parking lot, and it would be overnight parking, they called it. And there may be a sign, a flashing sign, kind of like a construction sign with an arrow, and it would say overnight parking. I'm like using my memory to remember some of this, and because I saw the Dead dozens of times, and fans would be able, in a portion of the massive parking lot of the complex, they would be able to camp there overnight for the 3 nights, 4 nights that the Dead were in town. And fans also, the Dead basically had this policy of, as long as there was not any kind of official logo of the band, fans could vend products that seemingly looked like something the Grateful Dead had or was selling, but they weren't. And as long as it didn't infringe on what was trademarked, the Dead sort of looked the other way. And so this kind of commerce was estimated to do hundreds of thousands of dollars a night. And there was also other stuff being sold, one could imagine. And I'll take a note from Melvin and leave that to your imagination, as he so wisely did earlier. But my point on the camping and vending comes more to the other side of that, which is if one can only imagine the camaraderie, these villages that sort of existed, thousands of kids who, mostly young people, but they had this alternate kind of lifestyle that this band was providing. My question is, how much of that were you aware of, and how did you become aware of what was happening in the other part of this guy's life that when you examine it, no other group ever had?
You know, I was not aware. I was, even when I became aware of what I was involved with and who I was involved with, and then learning on the job, learning as I'm going, learning more about the Grateful Dead, to learn more about the guy that is our leader, you know. That stuff, I just didn't know much about at all. Behind the scenes, who was who, and watch what you say to this person, or don't piss off this person. I mean, I was sheltered from, and maybe that's not the right word, but I didn't know much about that. They brought me in. I go in the door, you know, and I didn't hang in Jerry's room because I was different. And I'm not knocking anybody, but I was very different from a lot of the musicians that had been in that circle. And so they kind of kept me. They always made sure, if it was possible, that I had a room of my own, because I did nothing.
Yeah, I know.
I knew nothing. I did nothing.
They wanted to keep you away from that stuff, and were super, super respectful to the somewhat toxic scene that was going around. So did you, just to point it out, so we're talking Jerry shows you're mentioning, did you ever during that long run go to Dead shows to see what they were doing? Only
shows Jerry personally invited me out to.
What are those?
Was about 4. One was the Oakland Coliseum Auditorium. I remember it was like a New Year's run. I think the piano player was there.
Chuck Lavelle?
No. I can't call his name.
Like a Grateful Dead kind of guy?
No. He would just open up for them.
Oh, okay.
But the guy that brought up, you're on the right. Oh man, I'm going blank.
Dr. John?
Dr. John. Yes. Dr. John, if I'm not mistaken, we went once and he opened up or something like that.
Okay.
And I didn't know. Jerry invited the whole band, Garcia band, and we went, you know, because Jerry invited us, and he invited us 2 other places I don't remember, and I went just simply because he invited us. Said, hey, man, you know, he invited me. He said, why, let's go. I don't know what this means or whatever. Outside of that, I've never picked up and went on my own. It was just too big of a scene for me.
It was overwhelming, huh? It must have, and there was like a mini version of it that followed Jerry around. kind of.
Yes. The Grateful Dead would play 7 nights at Phillips Arena. We got where we would sell it out one night. Some of the same places, Madison Square Garden and NASA, we would sell it out one night, but they would do 7 nights, and it was huge,
It was, and part of the mechanics of that, I'm curious, because of the city too, and we'll wrap it up because you've been very, very good with us for some incredibles, just mind-boggling stories today. This is the best I've ever gotten from you, and that's going to really blow people's minds. The first one, meeting Jerry, but the talking about the guy who put, when I say mechanics, most of those things, a lot of the things that Melvin was mentioning, and it's Melvin Seals and the JGB, of course, coming to town with this remarkable Blue Note tonight, Friday and Saturday, Porter Pavilion, Garden Isle, Tuesday and Wednesday in Paia Town on Maui, 16th and 17th, Melvin Seals and JGB.com for more. But when you think about the cat Bill Graham and all of the many, many things that he did, and maybe because of the sheltering and them trying to be careful with you, you don't have any kind of crazy run, not crazy, but fun. I mean, I've kind of revered Bill my entire life. I have so much reverence for this cat. Is there any kind of story when I mention his name, something that comes to mind that makes you feel that that's a powerful memory that you like to conjure?
Are we talking about Bill Graham?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, there's many. Many. It's kind of hard to grab one now. There was many,
Did he like you? Were you guys tight? What was?
Yeah. He had a little nickname for it. I can't remember what it was, but he I think more saw whatever I brought to the Garcia band. And the Garcia band, he's had Jerry Garcia bands, like you said, for quite some time with Merle and quite a few others. But evidently I brought some sort of new life to it that they liked at that time.
Mm.
And so Bill did contribute a lot of that for me doing that. And then they allowed me to pick the girls. They had singers before, but then at one point Jerry said, give me some gospel singers, give me some, girls out the church and blah, blah, blah. And,
wow.
And I went to search, and that's how I came up with Jackie and Glory. I hired them. Jerry gave me the ability to bring them on. I brought them on. And so you know what happened. It was a different sound. That soulful Motown thing started happening.
Yeah. I mean, there was a little taste of it before, but it shifted hardcore into what it became, like a very strong thing that was, and then the reggae stuff. And so tell it, like, when's the first time that you had a fun, you've been to his house, I'm assuming? You've been to his place?
Yeah, I've been to his house with Menashe. I'm trying to remember. That's when him and Menashe was together. Was the first time I was invited up. They would have us up for, I'm trying to, was it Christmas or Thanksgiving? I remember going up there a couple of times, but it was with Menashe. It wasn't Mountain Girl.
And they had that, I remember, did you ever, like I got the story from Steve Cropper, kind of gets chills about how Dock of the Bay was written up at Bill's house. Like, did you know that song, that Otis wrote that tune? He was like staying up at Bill Graham's house in... Oh,
I did hear that.
The lake?
Hear that.
Something like that. There was a...
Yes, I did hear that. Yes, I was not a part of that, a part of that, but I did hear that story, and now you brought it to light. Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that's it. So it was a different house, I'm thinking, or maybe it was at the house. I guess Dock of the Bay. It's not a lake. It would be the bay of...
Yeah. I think that was Jerry and Mountain Girl, and there's so much history there, and so much things that I didn't quite. There were times, even though they were married, Jerry stayed over here, and someone else stayed over there. So I don't have all of that, but I do know when it was Menashe Keelan's mother, she would invite us up. I'm trying to remember, was it Thanksgiving or Christmas? It was a holiday, and for 2 or 3 years, I would always go up. As a matter of fact, one of the last time when they were together, and I don't know if Keelan was born or might have been a baby. I sat in a chair, one of Jerry's easy chairs, big, beautiful brown chair, and sat in chair all night. They said, "Man, they kept saying, you look so comfortable in this chair." And 2 days after that, they delivered that chair to my house.
Oh, wow.
I still have the chair.
Wow.
There's pictures online of me sitting in the chair and Jerry's playing a guitar.
Wow.
That's the chair, if you ever seen it.
And that was from his house. He had it shipped from his house.
From his house. That was Jerry's chair.
That is such a... And Bill, like, what's the most... When you think of time, like a time maybe you guys sat and talked about something important, maybe you got advice from him, anytime you thought, or maybe it was Bill and another couple of cats, or Bill and Jerry, any moment that really is a fun, or you went on a trip with Bill, any kind of like up close and personal with Bill that you haven't.
Well, Bill and Jerry and John was always cracking jokes. Very, very seldom serious. I was around in a serious moment. They would take a word and turn it around backwards, just go so crazy with the word and make it huge. You know, one of the things we would talk about when we were arriving to the venue, and there's a little line outside. You know, Jerry and John said, "Oh, we're gonna make the big dust tonight." It was always talk about big dust, not cash or money, big dust. And they just went on and on. And this kind of dust is gonna get us this. It was just their own kind of humor. So Bill Graham was really in that when he was in the room. When I was around in the room, they were just like taking nothing and making it funny and going deeper and deeper with it with a joke. I was not, around when this serious moment or things happened that Bill had to take care of or something went wrong. Again, I didn't, I didn't pay much attention to that. But when I was with him, Bill was always joking, just always a big joke of something like that. And it was a great moment, and he did wonderful things at the end of the year. He'd give us like something, a billion of something, a trophy or a set of towels that says the Bill Graham at the Warfield, or it just did nice little things like that, a picture or something like that,
And shows, you went to his shows, like he would invite you when he was because he was a big promoter. It wasn't just, he all kinds of, any fun time you remember him saying, "Melvin, you got to come see so-and-so." And he
invited me a lot of places that I did not go. Because again, it was huge. If I wasn't coming in the back door, if you didn't have special parking for me, then you to show up, you know what I mean?
I get it. I understand. It's hard for something like that because of the way you were living. What's one you regret that you look back at? Man, Bill one time said, "Let's go see the Stones," and now I can't. Is there anything that you? Because I have one. I'll give you an example. So I don't regret it now because I made up by seeing him at Madison Square Garden one time. But when I was in college in Boston, Stevie Wonder had done the Wang Center. It was January '95, and I couldn't get comps, and so I was like, I just don't have the money to go. And for years, I was bummed out. But then in 2009, I finally saw him at MSG, so now I don't have any kind of hang-up. But I used to, for a long time, I'd be like, damn, I should have bought the ticket. And Barry White, there's another. Barry came to the Fleet Center in 2000, and I couldn't, and it was sold out. And if I had really worked harder, I could have gotten tickets, and I didn't. So I regret that. I'm trying to give you examples. Any moment that you remember Bill wanted you to come to something and you did not go.
Well, Bill, the way he would invite you, it could be, someone could say, "Oh, you got so and so there." "Oh, yeah," and he'll talk it up and say, "Melvin, you ought to come to this." It wasn't a serious Melvin, I need you here.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like, "Oh, really? Yeah, Melvin, you ought to come out. You would have some great time." It was very casual, which meant nothing to me, unfortunately, at the time. It just didn't, because I was still involved. But I had a gospel record label. I was producing a lot of gospel, and the only outside things I was doing was Jerry and Elvin Bishop before Jerry. So even in a great deal of that time, I was still producing and got in the top 10 with my label. And so I was very much involved with what I was doing. And this was kind of a side thing. We didn't work a lot with Jerry Garcia Band.
That's very true. That's his main thing. That's a good point. His main thing really was The Dead. And it wasn't even an annual thing for sure either that they do a tour, huh? It wasn't a guarantee.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It got big, but we didn't work a lot. We made a lot of money, but the main thing was the Grateful Dead.
Right.
And so I had a lot of time to continue on in the lifestyle that I had.
Yeah, people forget about that. I love that. You had a lot of time. It's like that doesn't fill everything. And
yeah, right.
That's a great way of like, because that's like sometimes we had the Yardbirds on and it's like this dude, Jim McCarty, he was just so honest, their drummer. He's like, we made that money so long ago. I've had to do so many other things since then. He drove a cab at one point. I mean, he had to do all these things because you think the Yardbirds, you think they're always going to have the dough from For Your Love or whatever, these big songs. It don't work that way. And I love that. That's a real honest thing, and that you always kept that. Well, people will hear that kind of feel with the show because you're going to give it that kind of flavor. I'm sure the set list reflects it.
When people come out to our shows, hopefully, and if they want to close their eyes, they will hear and relive some Jerry moments. I stay true to that. Now, there's some things that I explore that I change around and make sure you understand, hey, this Melvin having fun here and wanted to go here with this. But there are many songs that we don't tamper with, and we get deep in what we've learned from Jerry, and I just don't change it. We want to bring that vibe in that moment. So I think folks will realize that we're on top of it, and if you ever liked any of that songs, you're going to like something here.
Well, that's the fun thing when you look over at him at these shows. Blue Note Hawaii tonight, then Friday and Saturday Porter Pavilion on Kauai, then Tuesday and Wednesday September 16th in Paia on Maui. Melvin Seals and JGB.com has more. This is the guy as he was playing, no joke, with Jerry listening. Jerry would look over and he'd just flash this, okay, so you'd get into your solo or whatever you'd do. And it would light him up. And it's nice to see someone be happy. There's a lot of misery in the world and a lot of tough times. So it's nice to
That is true.
It's nice to remember someone smiling like you made him smile. And I just offer that when people are there. It might make them smile too. So I hope you had fun today going. You're a great storyteller, Melvin. You really are.
Man, thank you. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just telling what I remember, so,
No, you're a great storyteller. We just had Al DiMeola, the guitar player, on, and he's like you. He can just get a good 7-8 minute long, like the Jerry meeting story was, he just told us the story of meeting Chick Corea, and it was are you a Chick Corea fan? It's a little different for you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that stuff. Yeah, him and Herbie Hancock,
Yeah, and so it was the same sort of very animated. So no, you've got a real gift with that, and take advantage of that. It's a treasure for people to hear you talk. You got a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you.
And hope people enjoy the shows. You stay safe as you're traveling, and let's hope most of all that Hammond B3 Leslie rig. Fingers crossed.
Yes, just pray that it works and both Leslie go in the right direction.
Fingers crossed for you, my brother. Stay safe.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Melvin.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All
Aloha.
All right, maha.